what everybody else is. But yeah, just felt it was appropriate at this stage to be mindful of that and let him get the proper rest.
How do you adjust the starting lineup?
Uh, as we have all year, Harrison Barnes will start, and he's been starting plenty of games, so I don't see it to be too big a shift, and we'll keep playing different combinations as we have.
And Dylan and Luke go. How they look?
Yeah, I think Dylan is very likely go, and Luke, I believe as well, but is going to go through pregame just to make sure they're feeling strong. But I would expect both to play.
Julian in his shoot around the other day was talking about the importance of sleep, and he's a big believer in it, especially in these back to back situations. Do you guys, kind of coach them up on how to maintain rest and get that restorative sleep,
I don't.
medical
We
staff?
yeah, we definitely have people resources that educate them on all those types of habits and professional processes to have your routine. Routine is something that's very important. We are creatures of habit. Our schedule dictates it for many times, but to be able to get into a consistent rhythm with your preparation and recovery after the games with the schedule, if you don't have a routine, it's really hard to get through it. So um, we are fortunate to have a village that helps with that, whether that's with the resources or with the education of it. And yeah, it's hard to believe that, on one end, these are professional players that are playing a very, very competitive game. They're also 20, 21, 22. So it's a little bit of a balancing act.
Mitch, as you guys head towards the postseason, have there been any kind of timely gems of wisdom you've been able to draw from Coach Pop in any of your communications with him that are kind of timely?
Uh, Not in the sense of the um, I don't think probably in the sense of the direct question, but he's always discussing the moment and how there are important takeaways that may not always be right on the surface level or that may not be necessary based on the game last night in LA, but it happened in that game and whatever that takeaway that you are discussing or focusing on could be something that leads to really important things in the future. And I think that's where Coach Pop has always been um, so brilliant, in my opinion, is his ability to extrapolate and filter out important information without making it some heavy gem. And it ends up becoming that, right? But he's also trying to make sure that you're not skipping steps, you're not making uh, too big out of a situation because tomorrow is just as big and it might be an off day that we have to go watch film on. And so I think that ability to have that perspective is something that's helped me tremendously just over time being around him and still serves me today just in all our interactions and conversations.
Coach Maxime Renault is leading rookies in double doubles this season. We had 16 and 12 the last time you guys faced off with him. Just what have you seen in the previous matchup that you guys had with the Kings, and also in preparation and scout for this matchup tonight that maybe signaled to you maybe his impact on the floor and just your overall evaluation of this game?
Um, it's amazing every year. I seem to forget about it until about January when there's a handful of young players, rookies I'm alluding to, that end up trending positive. And I think the theme a lot of times in those groups of players is they play extremely hard. And in this league, it is so hard to be consistent. It is so hard to play against veteran players that know how to win, that know how to compete, that know tricks of the trade, that have wisdom that there's no way to supplement. Um, the effort and the energy and the competitiveness is something that just it's a non-negotiable for those rookies. And he's one of those guys to me that he played so hard. And what ends up happening is your coaches and your teammates gravitate towards that because they see that energy and that effort. And then over time, as you get all these hours of on the job training, the game slows down a little bit. Your pattern recognition picks up a little bit. Your habits may become a little bit more consistent. And next thing you know, you're producing. And I think he's example of that, and a lot of credit to him of just, I don't know him. I followed him obviously because he went to Stanford, and I've heard a lot about him, but just the effort and the hard work that you put in over time, it will show itself, and you never know when. So I'm happy for him.
It's been a little bit over a year since you basically knew Pop wasn't coming back. What do you recall when it seemed apparent that he wasn't? Like, how did you take it in, and how did you mentally get yourself ready for this amazing opportunity?
Yeah, Mark, it was, in all honesty, there wasn't a moment that I knew or thought he wasn't coming back. It was over time. And I think to answer it as efficiently as I can right now, there was always this personal human element that was at the forefront of, that was my friend, father figure, uncle like, mentor, head coach, that I felt a duty and an obligation to in multiple regards. And then the personal friend part, the human part, that created its own emotions. And then as we move along and this opportunity that you alluded to came about, just a duty of wanting to try to carry this forward in terms of what I knew was true from being around him and this organization, the people that have been here for so many years, and how important that was to me to continue to do that in the reflection of what they built, but also understanding, the thing that Pop always said, that it would have to also be in the genuinity of my authenticity to be real and to be able for me to be consistent with it. And so I think that was probably the most overwhelming trait or variable, I think, of the job itself. The job, you get lost in the job itself, right? What are you going to do on shoot around and transition defense? And we got to get this guy working on these fundamentals. But that part of this operation that we have in San Antonio, where it's a community organization. It's a position that's very tied to our city and our community and what we hold true to culture in the city of San Antonio. And so that's something that I don't take lightly. And that was something that at times I gave a tremendous amount of thought to make sure that I upheld in the best way I could, or am trying to, I should say, currently.
Did you have any moment during All-Star Weekend you're like, wow?
Yeah, I did. Leading up to All-Star, I was asked quite a bit. And again, we still had games. So that was really weird for me, unique feeling of trying to think about All-Star, and you're preparing to compete in a couple hours. And so it didn't hit me. I knew it would, but it was, again, you get lost in the current of the season. And when I got there, I felt it. And then when we had a few times where we were all together, and the big one for me, probably Adam Silver brought all the teams into our locker room to speak to all the players, but we were in there as well as a staff. And that was a powerful moment for a lot of different ways.
Yeah, you been around this franchise long enough. You guys haven't been in the playoffs. You know what the playoffs are like. What will it mean for you to get this franchise back? What does it mean to the city to get them back and be back in that environment that was such a regular thing for so long?
Yeah, I would say from my perspective, I think excitement would be a word for the city. And I think, I think speaking for the prideful fans, not myself, but I think that's where they believe they are supposed to be. And so I would say those two things. Yeah, Tom probably can answer better than I can. But I would say kind of a balancing act of those two things.
And last question I have, sorry.
Good.
Who do you talk to? Like, who are your, like, I guess your OG, so to speak, like being one of the younger coaches in the league? Do you have guys that are your mentors that you, when you need to talk to somebody, you call?
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously, Coach Pop is a pretty good
Yeah.
built-in mentor. Brett Brown is still with the organization, who I talk to quite a bit, and so those two guys, because I've also sat next to them on the bench and have coached a good amount of these players, and they know these players and have intimate knowledge of the operation now, um, but aren't here also day to day. So those perspectives are different now for me, but still are very helpful because they have enough knowledge. Um, so I'd say those two guys still I lean on the most, and then I have personal, obviously, people and friends and whatnot, but not necessarily in the NBA community.
This with Nick behind you, Mark. I just wonder, he's made another leap this year, but specifically, what jumps out at you about how he made the leap, how he's different from last year?
I think that he has attacked this year with a aggression that wasn't concerned with being perfect. I think he was so clear and thoughtful and meticulous on how he wants everything to be and to play out, and his commitment and investment to everything. And I think he had some clarity from when he was out last year and over the offseason that you can still live in that world and you can still attack what you want to attack, and it still is never going to be perfect, and that's okay. And it actually helps you get closer to whatever you're trying to strive to be. And I think that's what's been really fun to see him this year, just going for it and still figuring it out on the fly.
To that point, in the summertime when he spends time with the monks, hits his head in a certain place. I wonder, was that something you knew in advance that he was going to be doing? Did you scroll on your phone one day and see that your guy was in the mountains?
Very aware that he's always seeking improvement in every single facet of his life in a lot of very unique and outside the box ways. So aware for sure. The intimate details of what's always going on. There was definitely some things floating on the internet. I had to make sure I saw it twice or three times to make sure it was real with some of the pictures and stuff. But yeah, just very, very creative in terms of his perspective regarding that.
Seems like you look for peace.
Um, I hope so. I don't know.
The competitiveness. This is the best of the best in this league, so that's not a trait that that is in short supply. But the fans, even this season, when he gets emotional after a big comeback in a regular season game or gets fired up, how unique is that competitiveness in the context of the NBA?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I don't want to. I don't want to be the one to measure the uniqueness. I do think what it is genuine. I think every time he speaks or gives himself to the moment, I always feel it's genuine. And I'm sure there's people that love it, and I know there's critics to whatever it is or whatever he says, and that's part of the deal when you're in the position he's in and the exposure and the stage that he's on, and he's perfectly comfortable with it. And to be that genuine in the moment, I have my own thoughts and opinions on what he says or his emotion, and I think at the end of the day, I just love how genuine, authentic he is, and when you're that, you end up in a pretty good place over time.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.